Hello guys and welcome. I am Ahmed Adel and this is Cost Engineering Professional, and in this video we'll be talking about piling works, which is part of the site works BOQ in accordance with Principles of Measurement International. So let's start. So regarding the site works, previously in our last videos we have talked about so many subsections that will come under the site works BOQ. And actually piling is a very important part when it comes to the site works BOQ. We'll talk about the piling in general, and the driven piling, the board piling, sheet piling, performance designed piling, and testing piling. So starting with the piling generally, or the piles in general. So for the purpose of measurement, driven piling shall include timber, precast concrete, or metal piles. So this is regarding the driven piling. Driven piling will include any type of pile, whether it is timber or precast concrete or metal. So for other piling systems, for example, performed casing with concrete filling shall be measured in accordance with the principles for driven piling or board piling as may be appropriate. So any other thing such as casing with concrete filling will be measured in accordance with the principles for driven piling and board piling, and we will be seeing these two in a moment here in this video. And they say also, unless otherwise stated, reinforcement shall be measured in accordance with section C, which is concrete works. We haven't talked about concrete works yet, but it is upcoming and we will talk about it in details. So we will talk about the steel reinforcement in details in the section C, which is concrete works. So for the time being, let's focus on piling works and we'll go to the driven piling. So supplying the piles, if the pile is driven, which means hammered or something like that, driven, it's not cast in situ, not CFA or something, it's a driven pile, which is a ready-made pile, as we said, like made of timber or made of precast concrete or metal or whatever. So supplying piles shall be measured by length. What is the length of the pile that you are supplying? And you have to state the number as well. Reinforcement shall be given separately, as we said, and it will be measured in accordance with section C, concrete works. Heads and shoes shall be enumerated, which means counted. If you have some specific heads or shoes for the piles, they should be measured in the BOQ separately in count. And they are also saying that driving piles shall be measured by length taken from the pile point in contact with the ground when pitched to the pile point when driven, which means the length of the pile from the commencement level up to the bottom level of the pile, which is the length of the pile, assuming that the top level of the pile will be flush with the natural ground level or the commencement level. And driving piles on rake shall be so described. So if you are driving a pile on rake, you have to describe that in the item description in the BOQ. The fourth point here, which is cutting off tops of piles. So sometimes when you use driven piles, you will hammer the pile and you will keep few centimeters on top of the commencement level or on top of the natural ground level. So these tops shall be cut. So the cutting of tops of piles and connections for lengthening piles shall be enumerated. These cuts, you have to keep them as a separate item in the BOQ and count. Okay, subsection number 15, which is board piling. So boring for piles shall be measured by length taken from the formation level of the ground to the bottom of the pile hole, stating the number, and the measurement shall include for blind boring when the pile top is to be below the formation level of the ground. So what they are saying here is that when you are using board pile or boring pile, the length shall be measured from the formation level or from the level where you are standing up to the bottom level of the pile. This will be the depth that you will measure, and you will have to state the number of piles, how many piles of, let's say, 12 meters depth, and this 12 meters is from the natural ground level up to the bottom of the pile. Okay, let's say that, for example, your pile depth is 12 meters, but the bottom of your pile is resting at minus 14 meters. So that means that there are 2 meters that are coming on top of your pile. Between the top of the pile and the commencement or natural ground level, there is 2 meters depth, let's say. So your measurement shall account for these 2 meters. This is what they are saying here. Shall include for blind boring when the pile top is to be below the formation level of the ground. All right. Second point, boring through rock shall be measured by length as extra over boring for piles. So again, let's assume that the pile depth is 12 meters, for example, and out of these 12 meters, there are 2 meters that will be excavated in rock. So you have to keep one item for the normal pile, which is 12 meters depth, and another item that is excavation in rock, which is, for example, 2 meters. And you will have to state the number, of course, for both items. So what they are saying here, again, that boring through rock shall be measured by length as extra over boring for piles. Okay, and what is that? That is the length of boring through rock, and it shall be measured, but no deductions shall be made from the total length of the boring. As we said, you are boring 12 meters, and out of 12 meters, 2 meters are coming in rock. So you will make one item for the full length or the full depth, which is 12 meters, and another item for the 2 meters, which is excavation through rock, and your quantity will be in numbers. Continuing for the board piling, so lining for piles shall be measured by length. So if you have any lining for the pile, it has to be measured by length. And the disposal of material arising from boring, because when you make boring for the piling, there will be some materials arising from that. So the disposal shall be measured in accordance with clause number B11, which we discussed previously. And this is regarding the disposal. You can go back and see what it says. But the materials arising from the boring or from the excavation of the pile, these will be dealt with in accordance with subsection number 11 in the site works, which is the disposal. Concrete filling shall be measured by volume. So if you are filling with concrete, you have to state the volume of that, or you should measure that in cubic meters. And cutting off tops of piles and forming enlarged bays shall be enumerated. So cutting off the tops of piles and forming enlarged bases for the foundation or something like that, such items should be measured in count, and you have to put in the description what exactly is that, and you count them, or shall be measured or shall be enumerated, let's say. Subsection number 16, which is sheet piling. So the sheet piling looks something like that. And the measurement for sheet piling shall be taken along the center line. And what is the meaning of that? If you see the sheet piling from top, you see it's like corrugated. So you will not go and measure the length like that. No, you will measure just the length here on the center line, which will be the linear total of that. And that's it. So this is regarding the measurement for sheet piling shall be taken along the center line. And supplying sheet piling shall be measured by area, taken as the area when in final position. So the area after you install the sheet piling like this is the area that you will be measuring in square meters. And if you have some corner piles or something like that, these should be measured by length. Continuing the sheet piling, driving sheet piling shall be measured by area, taken from the formation level of the ground to the bottom edge of the sheet piling when driven. Strutting and wailing and withdrawing sheet piling shall be understood to be included. So if you have any strutting or wailing or withdrawing the sheet pile after you finish the works or anything like that, these must be understood to be included, and you should mention that in the description. Cutting sheet piling shall be measured by length. If you are going to cut this, so you have to mention how many linear meters are you going to cut, and you can also mention the height of that if you have 1 meter above the ground or 50 centimeters above the ground that you want to cut. So cutting the sheet piling shall be measured by length. And sheet piling, which is required by the specification to be left in position, shall be so described. If you are going to leave this here, you will not remove it, and this is required by the specification, then you have to mention that in the description. So whoever pricing the BOQ will make sure that the rate includes this, that he will leave this and he will not take it again. Okay, going to subsection number 17, which is performance designed piling. So performance designed piles shall be enumerated. If you are doing some piling for the purpose of testing the design or testing the performance of the pile, then you have to count them. And reinforcement and disposal of materials arising from boring shall be understood to be included. So the item is just measured in numbers and that's it. And you will mention in the description that disposal of materials arising and the reinforcement and all of that is included in the rate that will be put against that. Details shall be given when the pile top is to be below the formation level of the ground, and we talked about this. If the top of the pile will be below the formation level or the natural ground level, So in that case, you have to keep that in the description. You have to mention clearly that this much, for example, of linear meters will be below the formation level or the natural ground level or the commencement level or so on. Final part, which is the testing piles. So after you do the piles, you need to test them. Some piles will be selected randomly and the number of piles to be tested will be there in the specifications. So the piles will be tested. And these tests can be like, let's say, integrity test or load test or any other test. So such tests should be there in the BOQ as an item. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and I appreciate your valuable time. Actually, guys, in Cost Engineering Professional, our goal here is to help quantity surveyors and cost engineers to develop their skills and enhance their careers. And if you appreciate this content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And talk to me, guys, in the comments. I'm very happy to reply to all of you. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.